know that I do interview for high school student applying to Cornell and Princeton for 21 years. So every year I would be assigned 10 to 15 students that I would interview. So I'm going to do a real one, quote unquote. Not that Joshua is applying to Cornell and Princeton, but I'm really doing an interview pretty much about 30 to 45 minutes as if I'm meeting him for the first time. Hey, Josh, good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, so tell me how you decided to apply to Rice University.
Yeah, so I really wanted to stay in state for college, and I saw that Rice was one of the top colleges here in Texas. So then I really started to look into it about sophomore, junior year of high school, and I just fell in love, with the culture there, with the emphasis on the undergrad students that they put, and also just like the environment that everyone.
Wow, I really like how you're so wise to start exploring and researching earlier in high school. And that's really smart, and that you're really thoughtful to think about both academics, the environment, the distance, and the financial. Very wise. What do you plan to study?
Yeah, I plan to study kinesiology.
So tell me more. How did you get interested in kinesiology?
Yeah, so I've been playing basketball and a lot of sports for my entire life. And recently I had a lot of knee injuries from just, playing too much. And I know kinesiology it's a study of like sports injuries and like rehabilitation, right? From physical deformities, physical injuries. And, having that personal experience really made me want to find a major or a career that's something to do to help other people who are in a similar.
Wow. When did you start your interest in STEM, science and biology and medical field?
Yeah, I think this started around 7th or 8th grade of of middle school, right? I took like a robotics class in middle school, and I really liked it. I like playing with Legos and, like building these robots and seeing how I found that the healthcare field was the best way for me to do that.
Wow, so true. Because in healthcare, you interact with people and you get to help them directly. Because oftentimes for engineering, and I was an engineer, what we do is more indirect. Finally, when we get into the product and then get to people's hand, but we don't get to work with people. I just love how you really are sensitive and tuned to what you're interested in. And sound like you're a people person. That's why you like to work with people instead of, we engineers were like geeks, facing the computer and then working with whether it's programming or design or in the lab. So when did you find out that you're a people person? Sound like you like science always when you were young. How about your people person interest? When did that become clear to you?
Yeah, so I think this happened around sophomore, junior year of high school as well. I was in marching band, and in marching band, right, you had to learn a lot of teamwork, a lot of communication with every person in band, not just your own like section. And being like one of the upperclassmen, I had to make the initiative, right, to communicate. A lot more fun.
Yes. Wow, you are just really sharing music to my ear, because I do a lot of leadership teaching, and you're hitting some very important points. Because it's through your marching band experience, you discover how you enjoy interacting with people, especially communication. So what did you learn? How to be an effective communicator from that marching band experience?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is for me, as one of the leaders of the band, right, as one of the older ones, I had to, in order for me to communicate well, first I had to learn how to kind of lower myself, right, and kind of like serve the other section, serve my younger classmates, younger team, right. If we had to fix something, I could do it with like a loving manner, because they knew where my heart was, right? They knew my intentions were.
That is incredible, Josh. Rarely do I hear this kind of insights from people your age. It took a lot of training for adults to learn what you just shared. Because you are an example of a servant leader, and you are so wise doing that. So when you did that, starting with lowering yourself, being humble to serve and help others, how did it work?
Worked out very well, actually. I don't remember any major conflicts that we actually had, because even though we disagreed with something with like some other people from the band, they knew that I had like the band's best interest at heart. I had their best interest at heart.
Demonstration of your caring for them. That is so powerful. You're getting closer and closer to how I usually define leadership. So let me ask, how do you define leadership?
For me, when I look at leadership, I kind of look at the life of Jesus, right? He lowered himself, right, to where he became fully God and man, right? He put himself down on earth to basically live among us. And he's God, he doesn't have to do that.
So would you say that you are a good leader?
I say that I always have room to improve.
Yes.
The second I say, oh, I'm a great leader, and become complacent, then I have to start questioning, like, am I really a good leader, right? If I think I'm a great one right now. So I think in many ways, yes, I think I lead pretty well, but there are definitely ways I can improve, especially sometimes I'm a big people pleaser. So even if I know something's right, I might try to go around it without, confronting anyone. And I think I can definitely do a better job on that in terms of leading.
Wow. Here's another just powerful example of a response. So on the one hand, we don't want to just say, oh, I'm a good leader. Oftentimes my student would tell me that they're a good leader and they would explain and give example. You are being honest to acknowledge that you are a good leader while also have a room to grow. So on the other hand, we don't want to be the quote unquote typical Asian, say, oh, I'm not so good. And I call that hypocritical humility. And be fair to yourself. Don't be unrealistically setting high expectations, say, oh, I'm never good enough, and then blame on yourself. You don't want to do that, right? Sometimes we grow up in the Asian environment, may tend to beat ourselves up. So we don't want to do that. So you want to demonstrate confidence and being assertive. At the same time, you don't want to be arrogant. So you hit on just a beautiful note. And thank you for sharing and volunteering what you want to grow in. So that is good. So tell me 3 adjectives to describe yourself, Josh.
Yeah. I think the first one, I say grounded. I'd say because of my faith in Christ, I'm able to stay grounded. I know what I want to do in basically almost every aspect.
Wow, these are very rare adjectives. I don't usually get that for the hundreds of students I've interviewed. So I love to dig deeper into this, starting with the humorous. And you mentioned how that humor actually cheer yourself up. But did you actually notice your humor cheer up other people, especially when you're in a team or if you're in perhaps a sensitive or tense setting, that when you have the ability to crack a joke and perhaps even make fun of yourself, right? Tell me, how did that work or not?
Yeah, so I remember one time I was giving instructions for marching band. I was yelling at the top of my lungs, and I had a huge voice crack, right? In front of like the 200 people band. I was like, ah! And I paused right there. It was like a tense situation before we walked into like the competition, right, to do our show. And I paused. I was like, hey, everyone, I'm sorry, I'm like 14 again. And then people chuckled. I had a good laugh out of it. The nerves were eased a little bit because I voice cracked, and I just stopped and told everyone, hey, my bad.
That is so powerful because humor really helps to relax the atmosphere. And Uncle Ming always tells us that. Uncle Ming also mentioned he learned from He learned how to be humorous from the president or CEO of Texas. You learned how to be funny, huh? So you know how to crack jokes.
Yes, yes, here and there.
How did you develop that?
I think I grew up with a lot of funny people. In middle school, elementary school, the people I like to hang out with were always the ones that were joking around, you know. Like if I trip or stumble or something, like they would be, hey Josh, chill out, watch out, man. And I mean, it'd just be like the little things, you know. We play games, kind of crack jokes here and there, like, hey,
you hang around with people with qualities that you like to grow with. You might not have chosen to get along and hang around with those friends because of their sense of humor. It just so happened perhaps you realize it. Was that the case?
Yeah, I didn't. I just kind of realized it.
Yeah. Although if you have a choice, and I would suggest to all the young people, hang around with people with qualities that you like to develop and grow in. Would you agree with that, Josh?
Yeah, most definitely.
So now you just kind of look back and say, oh, it just happened, right? But if you could be more even proactive and intentional to say that. Got it. Very good. Yeah, that is so powerful. Humorous. Helps to build relaxing atmosphere, meet people where they are because you're vulnerable. So the other two adjectives, grounded in your faith in Christ and level-headed, not being nervous. So let's go to the grounded one first. If you were in a college interview, do you talk about that Christian faith?
I don't think I talked about it like to the extent that I just did, but I did mention it. They talked about, I think it was a similar question to this, and it wasn't like adjective. It was talking about like three things that like you really like prioritize or like find a lot of enjoyment doing.
Got it. So this is a very tricky one, and many people may be interested to learn. When you're in a job interview, in a college application interview, how much do you talk about your Christian faith? So the context that Josh and I are talking right now is more of a Christian audience. So Josh was more open and say how he learned from Jesus. And perhaps in a college interview, would you say that you learned from Jesus as a leader per se?
Yeah, I say I sometimes look to Jesus for many of his leadership qualities. I'd be talking about service, especially.
Yes, yes, because that's an ultimate example.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in general, my experience in professional interview and college interview, it's fine to express your priority and your value like you did. If they asked you what's important to you, absolutely your faith, right? At the same time, we may not want to be so-called overt, kind of preaching the gospel. Wow. So that grounded really is rooted in your belief and giving you a purpose and a hope. That is very important. All of us need hope. And we all need to have a purpose-driven life mindset so that you know where you're going. And then you feel at peace with it. Well, thank you for that clarification. How about level-headed? How did you get to be so level-headed and not nervous?
Yeah, so this is actually something my dad taught me. Growing up, when I was in middle school, I got really nervous, like very, very nervous. In basketball games, you know, I was the guy whose hands were all sweaty before the game, you know. I get the first play of the game, try to catch the ball, and it would go right past my hands. And I think my dad always taught me, right? He teach me to think, okay, what's the worst case scenario that could happen? And for some people, when they think of that, they might freak out more. But for me, I think about, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen right now, right? And just thinking like that really helped me just ease my nerves to where to the point where I don't get too nervous, and I can be level-headed about a lot of things.
That is so true. In fact, that's the same question and the same tip I've learned and practiced, and I would tell people. And I hope all the people who are listening could consider the same way, because we could be under a high stress environment these days. So tell me, what is one accomplishment that you're very proud of in your young life?
Are you talking about high school?
Anytime throughout your young life, your 20 some years.
Yeah, biggest accomplish. I think for me, yeah, it was, say high school, it was definitely my senior year. We were in marching band. Senior year was a state year. So our entire band was competing for a state spot. And 2 years ago, right? States every 2 years. 2 years ago, we didn't make it, and we didn't put in the effort to make it. You know, our practices, people were messing around, and we didn't take it very seriously because at that time we were like the top dogs in our area, right? So we thought we would just be a free pass. So senior year, we really worked our tails off. A lot of the older, good musicians left, and our school got split in half to another school. So we were cut in half, and we worked our tails off. Wow. And I had the opportunity to like lead and like serve a really hardworking band. And ultimately we got to the area competition for state, and we were one spot away, right? And it was really heartbreaking, but at the same time, I think it was one of my biggest accomplishments.
How about a failure? What is something that you consider was a failure for you, and what you learned from it?
Yeah. I think there's been a lot. I'm trying to think of like the big failure that I think instead of doing marching band, I'll do a different area of my life. I think one of my biggest failures growing up, I think it was a lot of pride. I had a lot of pride in myself that permeated to a lot of areas of my life where I thought I was, I would win an event or do really good, right? And it would get in my head and be like, all right, I don't have to try as hard. I don't have to work as hard, right? And ultimately, I think, you know, I'll do another band example because I had a lot of failures earlier in my band career. So we had region competitions, right, as a freshman. And in 8th grade, I was number 2, right, in our middle school area. So then I was like, all right, I'm really good, right? I'm one of the best players. And it got in my head. So I didn't practice as much. I didn't work very hard. For my 9th grade failure, I'm glad it happened early because then my senior year, right, it helped me be able to lead an entire band, show them what hard work has, even if you have talent. Yeah.
That's another just powerful learning for me, to hear how you value your failure and that you learn from your own mistake. And it's so powerful for all of us to remember. It's okay to fail as long as you don't make the same mistake over and over. Wow. So and powerful. Again. Or would you say that you don't ever get proud again?
Oh, definitely not. Right. I still get proud a lot of the times. It's also another area in my life it's a big weakness of mine too. Yeah.
And yet you're more self-aware. You're watching yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's human nature, right? So you're not going to say that, oh, I don't ever get proud. That moment, you're already proud, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, our time is coming to a close. The last 2 minutes, if I could ask you, what would you bring to Rice University? What is unique value that you would add to this campus, this school body?
Yeah, I think, I still remember the exact way I answered this question.
It's a typical interview question for college application.
So for me, I think I had a lot of experiences in high school that shaped me as a leader, as a person, right? From playing on the Ultimate Frisbee team, being a captain on that team, right? It taught me not only like athleticism, not only how to play a sport, how to work as a team, as a sport, also taught me what it meant to see your players get injured, right? And then having to help them come back again. I think that's ultimately what I bring to Rice. I have this, I think I like to say I have a unique experience which has shaped my my vision, my thinking, right, about culture and about how our background affects how we grow up.
Yeah, I really value that because Rice does have a very diverse student body.
Yeah.
And your unique experience and perspective. I especially appreciate your servant leadership mindset, that I know you care so much to serve, and that's important to our university. So thank you, Josh.